Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 179. Without any delay, start explanation. Even if she lost, it would not mean anything. It must be that the enemy was sly. Rather than see the objective truth, the majority would usually prefer to be on their acquaintance's side. Tang Wulin was not scheduled for the first match in today's competition. Otherwise, it would be obvious. Xie would be fighting in the third match, Yuan and Yehui in the seventh, and Tang Wulin in the eighth respectively. Xie's match today was arduous. He had used a full 12 minutes before he found a chance and broke through the defense of his opponent. At least, he still had luck on his side before the next round began. Allowing that he met a 5-ring Soul King expert in this round, and the opponent's battle armor was incomplete, not to mention he was not even a one-word battle armor master, he was definitely lucky. Yuan and Yehui would fight in the seventh match. The strength of her opponent could be regarded as the weakest among the top 32. She did not expend too much energy to defeat her opponent. Alongside Xie, both of them entered the ranks of the top 16. At their age, it was an exceptional circumstance for them to be able to proceed to the top 16 in the Continental Young High-Ranking Soul Masters Elite competition. Shortly after, the one who would be battling was Tang Wulin. Yuna had been impatiently waiting for a long time. When the match between Yuan and Yehui and her opponent ended, she immediately jumped up from her seat. She pointed her right index finger in Tang Wulin's direction. Tang Wulin had stood up also, but he was not looking in her direction. He was walking straight toward the stage. "Yuna, keep your cool," exhorted Dai Yuyang. "I want to beat him up until he can't even recognize himself." Dai Yuna ran furiously after Tang Wulin and followed him up the stage. "Tang Wulin, you're dead." Tang Wulin was standing still on the stage when Dai Yuna's voice echoed in his head. His spirit was slightly shaken. What a forceful spiritual power that was. She could project her voice using her spiritual power. Ostensibly, he appeared to ignore Dai Yuna when, in fact, he did not make light of her one bit. She was one of the 8 heavenly kings not just because she was a princess. He had complete knowledge of Dai Yuna's spiritual power. Dai Yuna looked at Tang Wulin with penetrating sparkling eyes. Her diminutive hands rubbed themselves together. Her gaze was sharp. She was ready to pounce on him right away. In this match, it'll be Spirit King Princess Dai Yuna against the team captain of Shrek Academy, Tang Wulin. Princess Dai Yuna's martial soul is Hell Civet. It's the inherited martial soul of the Empire, an agility system soul master. Her speed is extraordinarily quick, and her attacks are powerful. On the other hand, contestant Tang Wulin is an assault system battle soul master. I believe his previous matches had given everyone a deep impression of his battling prowess. It'll be difficult for us to determine who'd be the victor of this match. We'll have to wait and see what the princess has up her sleeves. Fanga honestly did not have high hopes for Dai Yuna. The strength Tang Wulin had displayed in his previous matches was overly domineering. In addition, assault systems had a powerful restraining effect on agility systems. Both of them were equally matched in cultivation base, but Tang Wulin had a potent bloodline power. If Dai Yuna wanted to defeat him, it would be tremendously difficult. Nonetheless, she was a princess. When Fanga commentated, she was indubitably biased. It was obligatory. Due to the soul barrier, Tang Wulin had not heard Fanga's commentary. He had no idea that Dai Yuna's martial soul was an agility system. Let the match begin. The referee's voice had just faded when Dai Yuna rushed out quick as lightning. Her speed was incredibly fast. Beneath her feet, soul rings appeared, 3 purples and 1 black. In terms of the soul rings' colors, they were identical to Tang Wulin's. What fantastic speed! She had afterimages behind her. Dai Yuna had traversed halfway through the stage in one breath. He found this martial soul to be surprisingly familiar. Tang Wulin was a little shocked. Isn't this the Hell Civet martial soul which Wu Sidwa had? What a coincidence. Dai Yuna has it also. Since he was not familiar with Star Luo Empire, Tang Wulin did not know that the martial souls Hell Civet and White Tiger were the royal hereditary martial souls of Star Luo Empire. When he faced Dai Yuna's charge, Tang Wulin did not move at all. He waited calmly at his initial spot for her to approach him. When he arrived at Star Luo Empire a few days ago, he vividly remembered the scene where Dai Yuna had spoken to him on the plaza in front of the palace. He had a deep understanding of Dai Yuna's spiritual power. Tang Wulin knew that since Dai Yuna was one of the 8 heavenly kings, there is more to it than meets the eye. With only a Hell Civet martial soul, it was impossible for her to attain such a level. When she realized that she was less than 30 meters from Tang Wulin, the first soul ring on her body suddenly flashed. She instantly appeared before Tang Wulin as a beam of flowing light. It was incidentally the same first soul skill as Wusidwa, Hell Rush. It was precisely then that Tang Wulin noticed it was not Cut Claws that scratched at him. Instead, it was Dai Yuna's eyes. Dai Yuna's big eyes glowed with an azure light ring. They were as clear as 2 blue crystals. Tang Wulin felt his consciousness flickered for a moment as if everything around him had suddenly slowed down. A pang of pain hit his chest, and a bone-chilling cold came instantly. This was bad. Tang Wulin instinctively knew that things were not good. Under the external stimulus, the Golden Dragon King bloodline reacted at once. Golden Dragon Body was activated as a response. Golden Dragon scales appeared and shielded his chest. Hastily, Tang Wulin bit the tip of his tongue. He utilized his purple demon eyes to regain clarity of his mind from the confusion. Bang! Tang Wulin's body flew backward. He was sent soaring 8 meters by Dai Yuna's attack. He staggered a while before he managed to regain his composure. Naturally, the audience could not feel what Tang Wulin experienced. What they saw was the princess charging forward, then Hell Rush brazenly collided with Tang Wulin, and he was sent flying upon impact. For some time, the thunderous applause continued and shouts of exultation filled the Colosseum. People from around 10 miles away could hear the clangor within Star Luo Colosseum. Tang Wulin shook his head vigorously. He raised the power of his purple demon eyes to recover his spirits. He was terrified within. Predictably, Dai Yuna's spiritual power was phenomenal. Although Dai Yuna's attacks were strong, Tang Wulin had prepared beforehand. The formidable defensive capabilities of Golden Dragon Body were complemented by his soul and blood essence powers. Currently, he felt jolts of stabbing pain, but he did not sustain any serious injuries. There were 5 white scratch marks on the Golden Dragon scales, but they were slowly fading away. After Dai Yuna sent Tang Wulin flying with her attack, a body was on the move again. Just when Tang Wulin regained his footing, she appeared before him. For a while, countless claw shadows darted toward Tang Wulin. The purple light flickered in Tang Wulin's eyes. He protected his spiritual sea with the purple demon eyes. He unleashed a simple and unadorned punch. The air was compressed instantly. Dai Yuna at once felt the wave front of the compressed air in front of her. The tremendous pressure made it difficult for her to breathe. Dai Yuna's reflexes were quick. Her body swiftly retreated, and she made a half-squatting action. Tang Wulin's punch landed on an empty spot, but he had successfully negated the attack of Dai Yuna's Hell 100 Claws. He raised his right foot and was ready to take a step forward. Simultaneously, he prepared to unleash Golden Dragon Shakes the Earth. However, Dai Yuna suddenly moved, and she had timed her reaction perfectly. It was the gap between the fading of Tang Wulin's previous punch and the stomp of his foot. There was coincidentally an opening between the two actions. Her aura instantly became illusory. An eerie light cut horizontally into the opening and slashed Tang Wulin's waist. This move caught Tang Wulin by surprise. She was really good at seizing opportunities. An opportunity with a gap that was no wider than a hair's breadth. Now, that was incredible. Presenting his opponent with such an opportunity and at close proximity, Tang Wulin had no time to dodge the attack. The golden scales instantly took on the appearance of a mirror. The eerie light landed on the scales and they immediately flickered. At the same time, Tang Wulin's imposing body was going to stomp his right foot on the ground. Golden Dragon Super Armor. They had fought for a short period, but Tang Wulin was already forced to use his Golden Dragon super armor. Concurrently, when the beam of eerie light flashed across the stage, Diuna retreated. She was thrown back by the vibration of Tang Wulin's stomp. In fact, when the power of Golden Dragon shakes the earth propagated out, she had retreated far away. She had put ample distance between herself and Tang Wulin. In the short span of time during which the two exchanged blows and collided, both contestants had used 3 skills each. However, anyone who had acute eyesight could tell that Tang Wulin was obviously at a disadvantage. The 3 skills Golden Dragon Body, Domineering Golden Dragon Body, and Golden Dragon Shakes the Earth consumed a large amount of blood essence power which were unlike Diuna's Hell Rush, Hell 100 Claws, and Hell Slash. Diuna floated onto the ground. Her charming face bore a proud smile. "So much for your reputation." Tang Wulin looked at her as he frowned. Her Highness' power was extraordinary as anticipated. She was qualified to be one of the 8 heavenly kings not because she was a princess, but because she was truly competent and well-trained. Judging by her battle tactics and timing, she was at least stronger than the few other heavenly kings who Tang Wulin had met on previous occasions. There was something wrong with her eyes. Tang Wulin looked at Diuna anxiously as he became increasingly vigilant toward her. She was certainly not an opponent to be dismissed. Tang Wulin's lips formed a faint smile. He stretched out his right hand and gestured Diuna to go ahead. This skittish gesture of his infuriated Diuna promptly. She was akin to a tempestuous female kitten as she rushed toward Tang Wulin at lightning speed. Diuyang, who was smiling initially in the waiting area, suddenly knitted his brows together. Diuna's earlier performance was perfect in that she lured Tang Wulin into using a few soul skills. She even scored a hit on his body. She had performed flawlessly. However, the assault before his eyes seemed to be different now. Her mood was clearly affected. He had a deep admiration for his sister's skills and perceptive power. At the same time, he also understood his sister's weakness in both her cultivation base and temperament. She was a princess who had been pampered since young. There was always her pride and temperament which proved to be her Achilles' heel as she had a low tolerance. It was apparent that Tang Wulin's skittish gesture was meant to upset Diuna. If a soul master was incapable of remaining calm in a battle, then he or she would not be able to perform at their peak. Tang Wulin was a crafty opponent. Not only was he powerful, he was also skilled in observing and exploiting their weaknesses. It was still the Hell Rush, but this time, the radiance emitted from Diuna's gaze was stronger. The blue light turned into 2 streams of blue needle-like radiances abruptly. Tang Wulin felt a piercing pain radiating from his brain. Even his purple demon eyes were incapable of blocking her spiritual assault. He stumbled backward twice, but his hands remained in front of his body to act as a block. Diuna walked to face Tang Wulin. She skidded and circled around to his back. In response, a pair of cut claws clawed desperately at both sides of Tang Wulin's waist. Tang Wulin's spirit was greatly disturbed. His body was stiff and straight that even the Golden Dragon body was weakened a little. Without any spiritual control, it was impossible for him to unleash a skill such as the Domineering Golden Dragon body. He could not do anything except to allow the pair of cut claws to land on his waist. Just as Diuna's cut claws were about to rip into his body, an unusual change happened to Tang Wulin's body. Blades of thick and huge blue-silver grass suddenly surged out of his body without any warning. Diuna's claws tore into the blades of blue-silver grass. Soon after, the blue-silver grass streamed out like a pit of wavering snakes and wound around her body. There was a golden blue-silver grass that was most striking. It zipped past and wound itself tightly around Diuna. Everything changed in a flash. Due to the close contact, Diuna did not have time to dodge despite her swift reaction. In truth, the Blue-Silver Emperor was not within Tang Wulin's control. Diuna's spiritual assault earlier affected him greatly. In any case, he managed to protect his spirit from being severely injured, although he was rendered incapable of controlling his own body. Anyhow, he was not fighting alone, for he still had the spirit soul Gold Song. Gold Song was the first spirit soul that had followed him for many years. It was cultivated by Tang Wulin little by little. It had progressed from a defective spirit soul and was elevated by the fusion with Tang Wulin's bloodline. Since then, it had undergone continuous subtle improvements. Tang Wulin reckoned that there should be a fail-safe trick hidden within Daiyuna's spiritual power. Thus, he issued an order to Goldsong as Daiyuna was charging toward him so that Goldsong would help him to maneuver the Blue-Silver Emperor and launch the first soul skill, Bind. Even though Daiyuna had an astute aptitude, she did not expect Tang Wulin to utilize such an ability during a critical moment when his spirit was assaulted. She struggled under great stress for a brief moment. Simultaneously, a white figure emerged from her body and flew to the top of Tang Wulin's head at lightning speed. Her pair of claws enlarged without warning to grab onto Tang Wulin. The soul assault's effect had ended, and Tang Wulin regained his consciousness. The 2 golden soul rings on his body were replaced by 3 purple and 1 black soul rings. His second soul ring glowed brightly as countless blue-silver grass blades unexpectedly pierced out from his body as the center and covered a circular area of 10 meters in diameter. The white figure in the sky was immediately blown away by the blast. It moved sluggishly in the sky like an adorable white little kitten. Meanwhile, Daiyuna, who was wound in the blue-silver grass, was similarly impacted by the blue-silver impaling array. Even though the Hell Civet martial soul's powerful resistance had dispersed a major portion of the impaling force, she was still affected by the blue-silver impaling array. Dazed by the force, she felt sluggish and just stood fixed to the spot. Tang Wulin turned around and he was upon her. He raised his hand and placed his golden dragon claw valiantly onto Her Highness' head. The horde in the waiting area and His Highness the Emperor leaped up immediately at the same time. Everyone had witnessed the power of Tang Wulin's golden dragon claw during the earlier match. Even a battle armor could not block his golden dragon claw's attack, let alone Daiyuna's puny head. Daiyuna's head was about to be crushed when the golden dragon claw suddenly vanished and transformed back into his palm. He brushed her neck gently to put her into an unconscious state. The blue-silver grass faded away and Her Highness was placed onto the ground. Daiyuyan, who had dashed out earlier, witnessed the scene and heaved a sigh of relief. He was so petrified that it made his heart drop. If Tang Wulin had killed Yuna, there was no telling what would happen next. Dai Qianling was displeased, yet there was a sense of relief somehow. The match ended abruptly. Moreover, it was not an especially stunning battle scene. Only the knowledgeable portion of the audience could see through this battle of intellect and courage. Her Highness Daiyuna was tricked. She was influenced by the opponent's provocation. Otherwise, it's difficult to say what the outcome will be. Fanger made a fair commentary. The words "it's difficult to say" that was mentioned showed respect to Her Highness. After all, despite Fanger's frank commentary, she was still a citizen of Star Luo Empire. In actuality, Daiyuna had taken on an aggressive role since the beginning of the match. With her special ability that was her second martial soul, she had been on the offensive throughout the match. Other than the Hell Civet, she had awakened another form of a martial soul named the Spirit Eye. This martial soul that appeared ordinary was, in fact, famous because it was one of the 2 great martial souls that belonged to the legendary Spirit Eye Stolo Huiyuhao, who dominated a whole generation 10,000 years ago. The Spirit Eye was purely a spiritual-type martial soul which had a potent effect in elevating the spiritual power. Although Daiyuna was still young, her spiritual power was close to the Spirit Abyss. At the same time, she was endowed with a Spirit Eye with 4 soul skills. The soul skills were spiritual detection, spiritual disturbance, spiritual assault, and collective weakening. Tang Wulin faced the spiritual disturbance during the first encounter while spiritual detection enshrouded his body all the time. Daiyuna's judgment of the battle was accurate all along. During the second impact, she launched her strongest spiritual attack, the spiritual assault. If Tang Wulin had not been prepared, he would have been in real danger, especially after Daiyuna lost her emotional control's effect. This spirit-type martial soul was extremely rare and highly intriguing. Had Daiyuna constantly utilized her spirit-type ability to suppress Tang Wulin and consume his soul power, it would have been far more difficult for Tang Wulin to defeat her. It was a pity that the princess's willpower was not as great as her natural endowments. She had been caught by Tang Wulin's scheme which brought the match to its conclusion. Even as such, Tang Wulin could not help but have a deepened respect for her. The power displayed by Her Highness, the Princess during the battle and her intriguing spiritual power left a profound impression on Tang Wulin. A chorus of boos echoed from all directions. The jeering continued as Tang Wulin returned to the waiting area. He used his soul power to seal his ears from the outside world's disturbance. He was oblivious to the outside world if he could not hear it, yet his mind was constantly replaying the process of the battle earlier. The battle earlier enlightened him, especially when Dayuna had seized the opportunity to launch the Hell/Slash attack. The effects of spiritual power could be used in such a matter during a battle. His own purple demon eyes had always been used as a spiritual attack, but in reality, there were so many other uses for it. However, how had Dayuna managed to release her spiritual power? Tang Wulin was curious because it was very clear that Dayuna's spiritual power was superior to his. Another one from the Monster Academy was eliminated. There were only 3 of them left at this point. Tang Wulin had entered the final 16 with ease. The intense battle of the final 16 ended. Tang Wulin, Yuan and Yehui, Xie and the Monster Academy's team of 3 led by Long Yu entered the final 16 in succession. The 2 great academies occupied the top 6 places of the remaining competitors. The climax of the Continental Young High-Ranking Soul Masters Elite Competition's individual match was soon expected to take place. The next round of matches would be an enormous challenge for the 3 from Shrek Academy. Tang Wulin was about to meet the Tiger King Dai Yuyang, while Xie's opponent was Monster Academy's other agility-type Soul Master named Wind King Lin San. The round from 16 to 8 would be the important confrontation between Shrek Academy and Monster Academy. Whoever was capable of gaining the upper hand in the next round would have an advantage in the individual match. Those 2 matches would both be formidable battles. The Tiger King Dai Yuyang was ranked second amongst the 8 Heavenly Kings, preceded by the Dragon King Long Yu. The Wind King Lin San was ranked 4th among the 8 Heavenly Kings. He was undoubtedly more powerful than Ting Ting, and his opponent would be Xie. It was apparent that Xie's overall power was inferior to Yuan and Yehui and even Yu Jingyu. This coming match would be a harrowing trial for him. I refuse to accept this. Crack! This was already the 6th vase that Dayuna had broken. Her charming face was filled with rage. She wished that she could look for Tang Wulin and fight him again if she could. However, there were 2 elders seated calmly outside of her imperial living quarters. It was impossible for Her Highness the Princess to take a step out of her room with their presence. I refuse to accept this. I was tricked. That fellow was too cunning. Tang Wulin, you bastard. You wait for me. Dayuna was infuriated the moment she recalled the wicked smile on Tang Wulin's face, and his eyes that appeared to be gentle and clear but always appeared to be taunting her. Bastard. How could I lose? And in such an unfair manner? It was me who occupied the upper hand, obviously. The fellow was too cunning. He even managed to provoke me such that I became infuriated. How could she convince herself otherwise? Her original plan was to put on a great show in the competition and flaunt her magical girl abilities in order to receive countless applause and fresh flowers. Yet, she did not expect to lose hopelessly for nothing. How could this incident not oppress Her Highness Princess? All right, Yuna. Stop it. Brother Long will be avenging you later. Long Yu and Dai Yuyang walked into the room together from the outside at that exact moment. Dayuna's eyes immediately reddened as soon as she saw him. Her body flashed past as she pounced to his front and pulled at his sleeve. Brother Long, I refuse to accept this. I shouldn't have lost to that evil fellow. It was him who was too cunning. He tricked me. If I had been more careful at the time, it would have been impossible for him to catch me. How could he deplete less than me if I were to only fight him when I'm the one with twin martial soul? I can even defeat him just by using the spiritual assault to disturb him continuously. Dai Yuan's expression turned solemn. All right, little sister. Stop that. You have lost. Moreover, you didn't lose to him but to yourself. Rather than blaming others, why don't you think about your own mistakes? Why were you so easily tricked? If your temperament was slightly steadier, would he still be able to take advantage of you? Moreover, Tang Wulin is not as simple as you've imagined. Dai Yuna pouted her little lips. Fourth brother, how could you take the other party's side? Are you my brother or his brother? I don't like you anymore. Long Yu burst out laughing as he touched Dai Yuna's head. All right, my little princess. Your fourth brother will be avenging you in a moment. If he is unable to do so, then Brother Long will help to avenge you. Why is there a need for our little princess to act steady? She won't be our little princess anymore when she's steady. Don't be angry. Your performance today is already rather impressive. Dai Yuna's face remained defiant. Brother Long, if we were to meet Tang Wulin again during the 2-on-2 match, you must help teach him a lesson. You help me to pin down him and I'll stamp on him ferociously to vent my anger. Dai Yuyan could not help covering his face with his hands when he heard her words. He could not stand to look her in the eyes. Little princess, you're a princess. How can you lose your etiquette as such? Dai Yuna spoke rudely. I don't care. I'm going to vent my anger anyhow. Even if father were to put me in solitary confinement, I'll still be beating that fellow's ass. Achoo! Tang Wulin sneezed as he prepared to meditate. He had been feeling calm for the past few days. Or in other words, he intentionally ensured himself to maintain his mood in a calm state. Ever since Ji Yu's estrangement from him the other day, he had been maintaining his mood in such a state. He understood that as a captain, he could not allow his mood to affect the competition. In the next room, Ji Yu sat on her sofa. Her gaze appeared calm. She placed her crossed hands on her lower abdomen and seemed to be lost in thought. Suddenly, the lighting in the room dimmed for a moment. A figure emerged in the room soundlessly. It was a woman dressed in a long violet dress. She had an exquisite appearance with long lavender hair draping down her back. Even her eyes were violet. It was an extremely peculiar sight. She waved her right hand. A layer of purple-colored glow immediately rippled in the room. Then, she walked to the front of Ji Yu with slow steps. She knelt down on one knee and spoke respectfully, "My lord. How's the investigation?" Ji Yu asked indifferently. The woman in violet answered with a deep voice, "According to our investigation, Long Yu's Mountain Dragon King martial soul wasn't born inherently, but he had received some ability similar to an inherited ability which was then infused into his body and changed his bloodline. We're searching for this inheritance land. There are some powerhouses from the Monster Academy with unusually remarkable powers. It shouldn't be a problem for us to gather our strength and charge into the place by force. However, we will cause a great commotion, so it's difficult for us to stay hidden. Don't act rashly and alert the enemy first." Ji Yu waved her hand. "We'll look for another opportunity then. We'll be seeing Long Yu flaunting his power later on. I can't sense that inheritance land's aura. It should be a place that's similar to a breach in the space. If that place has the Mountain Dragon King bloodline, perhaps the item I've lost is there too. My strength is sealed again. I'm tidying up everything step by step and I've already completed the initial step now. I'll still need some time, but if I can find the item that I've lost in the beginning, then it'll speed up the process." "Yes, my lord. We'll look for another opportunity. The Monster Academy president should be taking part in the Continental Young High-Ranking Soul Masters Elite Competitions finals. That should be our perfect opportunity. I'll be investigating more by then to see if I can find some clues." Leave now." Ji Yu waved her hand. The woman in violet transformed into a stream of purple rays at the sway of her body and vanished without a sound. Ji Yu stood up and walked to the front of the window. She gazed out into the distance and turned her head in the direction of Tang Wulin's room subconsciously. On Sea God's Island at Shrek Academy, Enea sat on a swing as it rocked gently. Her pair of little legs with fair complexion were revealed on the outside, while her long silver hair hung down her back and was blowing gently in the wind. Her big eyes had misted up slightly. "I wish that I could join brother in the Star Luo Empire. She promised me that she won't harm brother before that day comes. If I didn't need more power to subdue her, I would have been there, too. Brother, you must return safely. I miss you so much." In Star Luo Continent, Star Luo Empire, Star Luo City. Today's the final 16 into the final 8 matches. Brother, do you have an extra ticket? I'll pay you no matter what the price is. What are you saying? I don't have any. I won't sell it even if I've it. This is absolutely the most exciting yet for this year's competition. This is a great battle between our Monster Academy and the Shrek Academy. I'm willing to give up a few years of my life just to witness the competition live. This is simply too exciting. You're right. Who would have thought that the final 16 into the final 8 matches could be so exciting? I heard that there are 2 matches between our Monster Academy and Shrek Academy out of the 8 matches today. Shrek Academy's captain is going to fight against His Highness the 4th Prince. The 4th Prince will win surely. Fanga was dressed in an enormous cape large enough to conceal her head and face as she walked down the street. There would be discussions about the upcoming final 16 into the final 8 individual matches resonating in her ears. There was no doubt that public opinion was biased toward Monster Academy. Could Monster Academy win today's 2 matches? Even Fanga could not foretell the outcome. Her choice would naturally be Monster Academy. She had a patriotic spirit. Nevertheless, she was impartial in her judgment. Shrek Academy's captain Tang Wulin's power remained a mystery as no one had witnessed the range of his skills from the beginning till the end of the competition. What were the vines actually? The competition had ended immediately after the vines were released during the last match. The Tiger King Dai Yuyang was His Highness the 4th Prince. He was ranked 2nd among the 8 heavenly kings and was also the highest grade powerhouse. He had the royal bloodline's inheritance. But was he capable of triumphing over Tang Wulin? As for the other matches, they were truly thrilling and interesting. There seemed to be only one agility-type soul master in Shrek Academy. The speed and fighting ability which he displayed during the previous matches was impressive. Similarly, he was hiding something too. To pit him against the Wind King Tang San was undoubtedly akin to a clash of the titans. It would be difficult to say who the winner or the loser would be. Of course, Tang San, who owned a set of one-word battle armor, would stand a better chance of winning. The public had been captivated by the 2 great academies' confrontation. Actually, all of them neglected the fact that Shrek Academy's students were only 15 years old. Even if Long Yu managed to be the champion of the individual match at the end, Tang Wulin would be considered to have won if he reached the finals. If they were of the same age, and Tang Wulin was a one-word battle armor master as well, then it would be a tough situation to evaluate. She had hoped that His Highness the 4th Prince would defeat Tang Wulin today. He would also be defending Monster Academy's reputation as such. As she was having a stroll, Fanga was suddenly aware of a figure coming out of the shop in front. She instinctively stopped walking. The figure was slender and much taller than her. He wore a hood which concealed most of his face. Anyway, Fanga could still see the side of his face from the angle where she stood due to his height. Fanga was stunned the moment she saw him because she recognized him at a glance. Isn't that Tang Wulin? Tang Wulin walked by her in a rush. When she turned her head to the side, she noticed that the shop was selling rare metal. Was he here to buy some rare metal? Why was he in such a leisurely and carefree mood when it would be the final 16 into the final 8 matches tomorrow? Tang Wulin was in a rather good mood at the moment. He received notification from the shop that a new batch of rare metal had arrived. He was at the shop to pick up a batch. The price of this batch of rare metal was reasonable. He could use it to make 2-word battle armor for his comrades in the future after some refining process. Tomorrow would be the day that he was going to face His Highness the 4th Prince in the competition. His opponent was powerful, undoubtedly, more powerful than anyone that he had ever faced before. However, his emotion was hardly affected as it was his emotional seal that made him capable of maintaining a calm state. However, Tang Wulin was aware that his current state was not beneficial to him because there was a lack of enthusiasm in him. Anyhow, this meant his mood was at least unaffected. He definitely would not be influenced by his mood. He kept reminding himself countless times, yet each time he thought about the night when Gu admitted that she was close to him because of his bloodline power, his heart wrung with pain. Forget it, don't think about this anymore. Tang Wulin shook his head intensely. Just as he was about to return to the hotel, the fighter badge in his chest pocket vibrated mildly. Are they gathering fighters again? Tang Wulin removed the badge instinctively and took a look. The badge was predictably pointing in the direction of Tang sect. He received 30,000 contribution points and outstanding merit for his service from the previous assignment. It did not matter whether he continued to partake in the coming operations at his current rank, being a white fighter with his accumulated merits. Still, Tang Wulin headed in the direction of the Tang sect. His parents had left, and now even Guu was. The only things he had now were the academy, the sect, and his comrades. He should just go to Tang sect and check it out. Star Luo City's Tang sect headquarters was bustling as usual, with the multitude streaming in and out of the building. Tang Wulin changed into his fighter attire in a desolated corner before he entered the place hurriedly. He arrived at the Tang sect's courtyard following the fighter badge's guidance. There were already a good number of fighters gathered, as one might expect. Ordinarily, one could differentiate a fighter's rank based on the color of the mask they wore. However, Tang Wulin was surprised that just about every fighter he saw was wearing a white mask, except for the person standing at the forefront. In short, they were all white fighters. The person who was standing at the forefront was the odd one out, a black fighter. Moreover, Tang Wulin could not help smiling the moment he saw him. He was still the same as before. Even though he was wearing a mask, his shape and aura had not changed one bit. Black One was his identification previously. He had no idea regarding the operation today. It should not be an issue for him to take part if it was only a short operation. Just as he glanced at Black One happened to be gazing at his side. Black One immediately walked over toward him. "White 3, he asked. Tang Wulin could identify the shape of his figure and aura, so how could he not recognize Tang Wulin's? Tang Wulin smiled and nodded. "Hello, Black One." Black One chuckled. "It seems that you've been spending your time in the royal city recently. Apparently, we're destined to meet. Don't miss this opportunity now. An opportunity such as this is hard to come by. Only once every decade." "Once every decade? What's that?" Tang Wulin was feeling unsure, but it did sound enticing. Black One gave him a few words of encouragement before he returned to the front. A large number of people had arrived by now. The gathering had surpassed 30 people, which was the number of people who took part in the previous operation. Currently, the number was still increasing. Half an hour later, the total came to over 100 white fighters in the courtyard. Other than Black One, everyone was a white fighter. There was not a single yellow or purple fighter. "Okay. Everybody is almost here," Black One finally spoke. All the white fighters were focused on him. Black One spoke gruffly. "All subsections have been notified a while ago regarding this operation. Those white fighters whose cultivation base is below rank 40 or 50 are exempted. Those who have already completed their one-word battle armor and can advance to be yellow fighters are also exempted. Those of you who belong to those two categories, please step aside. Those two categories aren't allowed to participate in this operation." 5 white fighters stepped out upon hearing Black One's words. One of them spoke respectfully. "Our esteemed black fighter, I have just achieved a breakthrough to rank 50. Am I not allowed to participate? This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.